I'm so excited to be here. Hello, my name is Tammy Anderson Ward with the Energy Healing Conference. We've been producing these events for the past 10 years. This is our huge 10-year celebration. I am so excited. I'm so looking forward to this. Today, I have the esteemed privilege of introducing you to one of our big time speakers at this event. She is an intuitive coach. And an intuitive movement coach. Let me go ahead and tell you the rest of that. She's also an advanced trauma informed yoga instructor, a registered nurse, and a stand-up paddleboard yoga instructor who understands the human body. That's a big deal, y'all. She also helps people use play and movement to connect to their bodies, releasing negative belief systems, stress, anxiety, depression, and more. And trauma as well. And if you've been working on some of those things for yourself, this is a fantastic place where you can go. And it's maybe not the same as some of the other things that are out there, right? Discovering playful ways of using movements has helped her to learn to listen to her body, overcoming her suffering. Now she helps others heal their pain, transforming their lives. She's the owner and creator of Angie Berrett Movement, and she's coaching people how to release stored trauma in their bodies while increasing energy, strength, and flexibility. So I'm super excited and grateful for the opportunity to go ahead and bring her on to our stage today. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Tammy. I'm so good. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Heck yeah, that was really pretty amazing bio. I just a few minutes ago actually had a friend who's a therapist ask me for someone who is maybe on the other side of some things, who's, also very well informed, very educated, also experienced with releasing trauma. And so it's not just, people who are like stuck in bed who are struggling, who are looking for some things, maybe people who are still really like high functioning, but are looking for a way to be able to process things, right? So why don't you tell us a little bit more about how you got into this, who you are, and how you got started?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Tammy said, I'm Angie Berrett. And so I am a child abuse survivor. My abuse started when I was very young and it went for many years. And it was so significant, I actually had no memory of it until about 10 years ago. So I went through my life and I just knew I had what I called this black hole of pain. It was just kind of this emotional itchiness, this discomfort, and I never quite knew what it was. I graduated college. I'm a registered nurse, and I've always worked in high stressful environments, emergency departments, intensive care unit, all that kind of stuff, because I thrived on chaos. When things were calm, I felt unsafe. And I had no idea why. And like I said, about 10 years ago, the memories of my child abuse came out. I had some traumatic things happen. And so I started dueling with the memories of my child abuse, as well as the trauma that caused it to open up and be released. And I hit rock bottom. I was in a really, really dark place. So dark, in fact, I had to stop being a nurse. I couldn't handle taking care of others. I was having a hard enough time taking care of myself. And I decided I needed something to do with my mind and my body while I was taking a break from nursing. And I've practiced yoga for many, many years. I've always done the mind-body practice. I love it. And so I became a yoga instructor. And then when COVID hit, I loved being a yoga instructor. I loved being able to work with people to help to connect to their bodies, to be more proactive rather than reactive, taking care of them when they were in crisis, when they would come and see me in the emergency department or the ICU. And then, like I said, COVID hit, and I actually took a training on how to become trauma-informed yoga instructor. And a trauma-informed yoga yoga is very different. It actually works to tap into more sensory exploration. Traditional yoga is a little more structured, whereas trauma-informed yoga is a little more open to the sensory exploration of what's happening. And I loved it. It really opened up my world, which was what I needed, because around the same time, I actually had to stop doing my own yoga practice because feeling into my body put my system into overwhelm, into shutdown. It was just too much for me to even be a yoga student anymore. I could teach it, I just couldn't practice it. And one of the things that we learned in my trauma yoga training is how powerful playful movements are in helping us tap into part of our nervous system that helps us to feel safe, to feel connected, to find that sense of peace internally. And actually the nerves sit up here in our chest. So if you ever notice me touching my chest, that's why. It's because the nerves sit in our chest. And so I learned how powerful play was and playful movements were in releasing some of this buildup of energy that we had and helping people to tap into sensory information in ways that felt safe. And around the same time, I started doing a protocol with my therapist that's designed for people who experience trauma at a super young age, who have no semblance of safety because all they know is trauma. And I learned that all mammals, and by the way, humans are mammals, we're born with our brains pre-wired with 7 circuits. So we know 7 things when we come out as babies. And how do children learn? They play. We play peekaboo. We, put mobiles up for children to learn. Well, we still have that same wiring. It's because children are wired to learn how to play. That's how they learn. And as adults, we still have that same wiring. We just don't tap into it. So I was learning about play in these 2 very different spaces. So I started playing around with play and movements in my body. And people always ask me, what exactly do you mean by play? So I'll give an example. When like I said, I'm a child abuse survivor, and I was taught that I had to be small in order to be safe. If I was big, it was unsafe. And so doing anything that brought attention to me felt really unsafe, feeling big. So I pretended like I was an elephant stomping around my house. And I got to experience the sensations of feeling big, of being an elephant, of not caring what was in my way without my brain telling me danger, shut down, danger. And so I started exploring it more and more. And the more I played, the more I actually was able to be in touch with my body. And then I started talking to some friends, people who hadn't experienced trauma like I have, who just have experienced life stressors and life events, normal life events. And so I started working with them, showing them how to play. And it worked to release their emotional turmoil that they carried inside. And so it's turned into this big movement of using play to connect to our bodies, to release stuff in ways that we don't otherwise do, because we as adult humans don't play very much. Our play is competitive, it's serious, or it's playing video games where we disconnect. So play and movement really work to bring our mind and our body together in ways that don't put our nervous systems into overwhelm.
That's awesome. I was just texting the link of this video to a few people that I know are going to like completely geek out. I have a kind of a similar experience when I started doing yoga. My daughter went to Peru and got yoga certified and everything. And when she came back, she was like, let's do yoga. So we started doing yoga. And I literally cried every single time I did it. And she's like, why are you crying so much? I'm like, I don't know, every time I do it. But I think it is really similar to what you're talking about. It's like my mind and my body were making friends again. All of a sudden they started to communicate. And I have been through a lot of traumatic situations and, done all kinds of things. So I just am so appreciative for somebody who is trauma response trained, what you're looking for. And especially you have the nurse background as well. Yeah. So there's just so much to it. I would love to have you go ahead and just talk about where can people start following you like right away. I want to get that out the gate here so that people can go ahead and check into that. So go ahead and share that with us all.
Yeah. So Angie Berrett Movement is my handle on everything. AngieBerrettMovement.com is my website. I'm Angie Berrett Movement on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. One thing, I do spell my last name a little differently. We spell it Berrett. So AngieBerrettMovement.com is the best way to get a hold of me. And I give lots of tips about movement and play. Yep, Tammy just put it up on the screen. I love play, I love movement, and I love letting go of the norm or the status quo of what we're supposed to be and just having fun and playing.
I just love that so much. And I know I personally have been on your YouTube channel. You do have lots of videos and fun things that people can just go check in. Doesn't matter where they are in the universe, they can go have some fun and find out more. So tell us a little bit about this other page, the sequence for when you are overwhelmed. I'm going to have you go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, so I have a free gift. It's a free, short, less than 5-minute movement sequence for when you're overwhelmed, what you can do to instantly shift your mood. When we go into overwhelm, or when we're stressed, when we're feeling anxious, when things are kind of coming at us, our body, our nervous system goes into protective mode. It puts us into fight or flight. And so that's not just words that are coming out of people's mouths. Our body's gearing us up, getting us ready to run or to fight. So it's releasing hormones, it's releasing chemicals, it's releasing stuff that makes your heart go faster. It's shifting blood to areas to get you prepared to run or to fight. And so it's uncomfortable. We don't like to feel that as humans. So typically we stuff that down. And then that's where we get super disconnected from our body. So when you can do some sort of movement to release this idea of, if you have a tiger coming at you, what are you going to do? To just kind of let go of all that energy. It allows you to let it out rather than stuff it down. And so when we stuff it down, our energy tends to come out at a point where we don't want it to. Have you ever been, something's going on in your life and all of a sudden you flip your lid, you lose your cool over something that you think later, oh my gosh, that was nothing. Why did I lose my cool over that? And that's because we just keep stuffing this energy down, this fight or flight energy that our body's actually producing. So when we can do movement to release it, then we don't stuff it down. It's like a pressure cooker. If we just keep stuffing it down, ultimately it's going to blow. And so when we can release it, it doesn't blow at inappropriate times or times we don't want it to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so tell us a little bit, just a little bit about what you mean by fun and flow. We're going to go ahead and start there.
Yeah, so my workshop is called Fun and Flow. Fun is movement. Fun and play and laughter is actually, studies have been done that show those are things that really actually help us to heal. Fun and play, laughter release endorphins or feel-good hormones. Flow is movement, allowing things to go. And so when we combine the fun and the flow, it allows us to shift and let go of things that we either know we're holding on to or might not recognize what we're holding on to. Fun and flow allow us to tap into the signals that our body is giving to us. I'm going to give you a little statistic here. So our bodies, and I don't know how scientists have come up with this, but they've come up with this number. Researchers have determined that our body gathers information from all of our senses, so sight, sound, touch, taste, all of that. Gathers that information and sends it to our brain at a rate of 11 million bits of information per second. Guess how much our conscious brains can process? Take a guess.
My guess is not that much.
You are very correct. It's 50 bits of information versus the 11 million bits of information that our body's sending. So that's why we have all these kind of emotional things that we may not be aware of, or that's why things kind of are coming up. Or when you do yoga, you start to cry and you're not quite sure why. And that's because our body's sending all this information that our brain can't process. So when we use flow and fun and play and movement, we start to be able to tap into some of that information in order to release it, to unblock it, to let things go so that we can move through it. So I'm going to give a little example here. So I'm going to invite you to do this with me.
Okay.
I'm going to invite you to start with just a side-to-side sway. Now, as I do this, I'm going to say movement and play don't have to be big. A lot of times when people start doing play and movement, they feel very uncomfortable, which is normal. And so make this movement be as big as you want. If you want it to be super small, be super small. So just notice as you're doing the side-to-side sway, what happens? Check in with your toes. Maybe check in with your belly, your gut, your jaw. Tammy, your face just relaxed. Your shoulders dropped. Did you notice that?
My neck actually popped.
Yeah.
And it was like a full body release, like, oh.
Right? Now, I'm going to invite you to go front to back. And start to notice what happens as you go front to back. So everybody has a direction that feels soothing to their body and one that feels uncomfortable. For me and for Tammy, I'm guessing for you, front to back feels more uncomfortable, side to side is more soothing.
Yes.
Okay, so go back to the direction, whichever direction feels more comfortable for you. Some of my clients like front to back better. Personally, for me, side to side is more soothing.
Mm.
And noticing the difference in your body between the two. So I actually invite people to go the direction that feels uncomfortable, because that starts to give you information about what it feels like when your body's going into discomfort or something starting to stress you out. Check in with what's happening with your toes. My toes always grip into the ground. That's one of the first signs I have. My gut tightens because our gut clenches when we start to go into fight or flight.
Oh, I thought you said your butt tightens.
Oh,
like I felt like my butt cheeks were actually tightening.
that too, actually. Yeah, your butt cheeks tighten. Everything starts to tighten up. I said gut, G-U-T, but both tighten. Absolutely. And so that starts to give you information. So we're not in danger, right? We're just flowing, we're moving. Now I'm going to invite you to imagine that you're a tree swaying in the wind. And so start to go whatever direction your body wants to. And if that doesn't work for you, that doesn't resonate, maybe imagine that you're floating in the water and letting the water take care of you, just support you. And notice how, as you start to imagine something different, add that little element of play into it, how that changes your ability to tolerate the direction that feels uncomfortable for you or less comfortable.
Yeah, actually the mental imagery, even just like the suggestion of it makes it
Shifts
actually
it, doesn't it?
like
It
that, yeah.
takes it takes us out of, so what play or fun and flow does is it takes us out of the mental story that we have been trained or brainwashed to think, and gives us opportunity to experience sensory information that don't put us into that, oh my gosh, I'm in danger, something's wrong. And it allows us to actually start to find that connection where we don't go into overwhelm. As well as, like I said, our body's building up when we go into stressful situations. It's actually releasing energy. And I'm not talking woo-woo energy. I'm talking actual E=mc² energy, preparing us to run or to fight. And so when we can release that, it just leaves our body and we're not stuck with this, what I call swirling tornado of energy.
Yeah, that's really powerful, because anybody who's ever experienced anxiety, like oftentimes when you describe it, it's like a tornado inside of you or a hurricane or something like that, right? And that's that swirling energy that you just suggested. I literally did have more anxiety attacks between 2020 and like 2023, up until recently. I thought that I knew what anxiety was, but I didn't have a clue until you've had like a real serious, intense. It's a little difficult really to understand. But yes, that was powerful. So why do you think that this is so powerful in the healing process? Like, this is like, you can feel it. Like, there's a lot of science behind it, but why do you think that it is so powerful for people?
I think for two reasons. One, it's how we're born. We're wired with this. And so we're just tapping into our own innate healing ability. And so it's very empowering. We're not dependent on someone else to do it. We may need a guide to guide us through it or to be our cheerleader, but this is something that we are doing ourselves. So it's incredibly empowering. It takes us out of the mental stories and allows us to feel. We're so disconnected from our bodies, that 11 million versus 50 bits of information. Yeah. And so starting to tap into that, we're able to shift and navigate earlier when we start to feel uncomfortable. Wow. And finally, it's fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Get to the point where you feel a little more comfortable with it. And maybe it's just one finger. It doesn't have to be anything big. But once you get to the point where you're starting to move and shift that and let that go, things just start to peel away, layers peel away. And so often healing doesn't focus on the body or the somatic work. Somatic means sensory. So a lot of times we're working from head down, whereas what I do is I work from the body up to reconnect the body to the brain.
That is powerful. I just love it. So I'm going to ask you one other question that I think could be applicable for young people, no matter their gender, their life. wherever they are, no matter what kind of an upbringing that they've had, because maybe they've had a really traumatic one. But I would really love to hear, like, what kind of things do you recommend for people who are really uncomfortable just with play in general, or even doing movements, stuff like this? I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Yeah. Like I said, I recommend start small. Start with whatever you are comfortable with. Your comfort level is not going to be the same as mine. I've been doing this for a lot of years. So I recommend maybe just start with one finger. Some of my clients, that's all they can do is just one finger. One of the things is our nervous systems, when we're stressed, when we feel anxious, our bodies respond the same way. It doesn't matter if it's a memory of a stressor, or if it's an actual stressor, or it's an actual tiger coming at us. There's varying degrees of how our body responds, but we get the same protective response. So when we start to move just even one finger and doing things that are rhythmic and repetitive are soothing to our nervous systems. So that's why the side to side sway works so well. So starting something small, maybe it's a sway, maybe it's one finger. And another suggestion is doing movements that involve one side of the body and then the other. Because what that does is when you activate the right side of your body, you're into the left side of your brain. And the left side of your body activates the right side of your brain. So if you do some sort of movement that activates both sides, then you're activating more areas of your brain that bring you out of your fight or flight response into your rational thinking brain, and it makes it much easier. So starting one finger, and then maybe add the other finger in. And then as you do that a few times and repeat it, maybe start to notice you can get maybe two fingers going. My body likes the sway, so I always end up adding the sway in. But it's just starting small. When you come to my workshop, if you can't tell, I have a lot of energy. And so I give lots of guide suggestions. I do it as a choose your own adventure. I'll give suggestions starting from fingers up to big, crazy movements. And so it's empowering you to decide, what does your body want in this moment? And that may change. You may be okay starting to do a couple big fingers, and then something gets activated in your brain, and then all of a sudden, maybe it's one or two fingers. Totally great. It's about listening to what your body wants, not what I'm telling you or inviting you to do. It's this exploration of learning to listen to your body and giving yourself permission to do something or not do something, depending on what it is that you want. It's just a simple act of a little bit of a movement, whatever it might be. Maybe it's even only half a pinky move. It's really just the act of starting a movement.
I love that. That's so awesome. Okay, for the people who just barely tuned in, because a few people did join in a little bit late, can you go ahead and talk about that freebie just one more time that you have about what to do when you're overwhelmed? I'll go ahead and post the link, but I just think that that was such a fabulous resource. I want to go ahead and have it mentioned again.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So when we are overwhelmed, our body then do type of flight. It's starting to release hormones, chemical messengers, things that are preparing your body to actually run or to fight. And stress puts us into that. Overwhelm, anxiety, memories of something. And so when we can do some sort of movement practice to release that energy, release that actual fight or flight response, then we're able to let it go rather than stuff it down. Typically, we don't like to feel it because it's uncomfortable, so we stuff it down. So this movement sequence is short, less than 5 minutes, doesn't take very long, but it's a way to let out your inner child, release this angsty, emotional, anything that's happening, and allows your brain to come back online to the rational thinking part rather than to be in this fight or flight protective mode. And it's fun. I laugh every time I do it. So it just awesome. Is so much fun for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so excited. All right. So now you have this going on at the class, which is like all very movement, fun. What kind of things are going to be happening at your vendor space at the conference?
Yeah, so I am going to be doing actual demonstrations for people. One of the ways that I work with my clients is we take a negative belief or a negative emotion that they're struggling with and design movement around it. So I'm going to be giving demonstrations for people to see what it's like. I'm going to have some of my movement practices there. I'm going to have ways to connect with me. And it's just going to be a fun time because I love to have some fun.
I bet your booth is going to be a blast. I'm so excited. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else that you'd like to go ahead and close with today?
First of all, thank you for having me. And
Absolutely.
this energy healing conference is amazing. And the one final thing that I want to say is healing doesn't always have to be heavy. There are ways that we can heal, that we get to have fun, and we're meant to have fun and to play. Just remember, we're born with that wiring, and tapping into that is a way to really empower yourself to heal.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. What a powerful message as well, especially people who feel like this healing thing sucks and it's hard and it's heavy and it's like, never, is it ever going to end kind of thing. You know what I mean? I have people in my life who I love who've been at this for years and they're like, is it just ever going to end? And it's like, you can shift your focus to whatever it is that you're seeking. If you're wanting more fun and more joy, I highly recommend Angie's class. This sounds like such a blast. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Tammy. Thanks for having me. I'll see everybody there.
Yay. Okay, awesome. You guys, her YouTube channel is literally so much fun. I went on there and I was watching some of her shorts and I was like, I can't wait to meet her in real life and give her just a huge hug. And then also just her class. It just sounds like such a blast. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that you guys have the link here for the conference. It's coming up, not this weekend coming up, but the following weekend. And I'm just so excited about it. I just can't hardly even stand it. So if you don't yet have tickets and you would like tickets, go ahead and send me an email. This is my private email, tammy@hopehavenevents.com. Let me know how many tickets you need and also for which day, Friday or Saturday, or if you want to come both days. There is something for everyone. You can definitely bring your kids. You do not need tickets for kids under 18. This is only tickets are required for over 18. You can bring your kids with you to the classes. That's totally okay. I think there's only one class that says adults only, but besides that, you should be good. If you would like to come to just the vendor event only and not any of the classes or the activities, the vendor passes are free. You do have to check in at the registration table, but the vendor hall is open for the public with no charge. So please go ahead and check it out. This is all happening June 28th and 29th, and we'll see you there. Thanks, everyone.